It's all about the memories, places we go, people with me. Take a minute, enjoy the ride. Every day is a once in a lifetime, and those pieces of time that somehow define who you've been, who you're gonna be. It's all about the memories.
I asked some people their favorite stories of Charles Rowan, and Corey Carvalho asked for these ones to be recorded. The first one is Indian guy with a dumb look on his face.
I can answer that question, Corey. Indian and the Portuguese a whole lot alike. They're underrated. They're a lot smarter than people give them credit to be. An Indian is the kind of guy that don't say a whole lot and don't talk too much, and you got to read between the lines, but he's always right. If you got a dumb look on your face, you usually ain't that smart. That's what that meant when an Indian said that. When I asked the guy if the man was hurt, he said, he was not hurt, got a dumb look on the face. That meant he was stupid for what he tried to do, ride his horse without a bridle. So Indians and Portuguese have a lot in common. They're way smarter than people think they are. They say a lot of jokes about them. It's the guy talking about the jokes that's dumb. He's the one with the dumb look on his face. I never seen Portuguese that wasn't prosperous.
The second story that Corey Carvalho really liked was returning to beat up the childhood bully. Do you recall that?
Oh, the bully about the girls?
Yeah.
That's he was a big old guy with muscles all over him, thought he was tough. Walked down the road picking at the girls. One thing that idiot forgot, that them girls were tougher than men. So one of them started straightening him out, the others hit him from every direction. They sent him home to his mama with the black eye and crying. That's how tough that bully was. You don't mess with these Oklahoma girls in them days. You might mess with them now. I don't know if they've changed. And I know they're still pretty.
Corey wanted to hear about the move from the Dust Bowl to California.
From the Dust Bowl to California, yeah, that's easy. I lived through them times. That's when everybody left the country. They left this country 2 and 3 at a time. That's why I moved so many times. Every time my dad think he could find a better farm, he'd go get it. We're some of the last to leave. Everything changed in Oklahoma. I can't believe where I'm at. I see mansions alongside the road. Charlie can tell you that, right, Charlie?
I can. Cattle country.
I don't know why everybody's got a big home and this place looks so prosperous, because I've been gone too long. This was farmland then, and they weren't no cattle here but a handful of milk or something. There ain't no farmland here, and there's nobody, no tractors. You don't even see one. It's all cattle country, Black Angus cattle. And that's what happened. They changed, the country changed, and it came to life, and everybody made money again. I don't see any property for sale here. There's no signs out. They don't want to sell it. They make a living on it. It's good land.
So when you moved from here to there, what was it like? I remember you telling me. Tell us about the drive now to Oklahoma on these nice new highways versus the drive in that old truck in the back of it, and how your dad had to back up a hill. I'd like to hear about that.
My grandfather left this country in the early days. 4 times was even that hard. He was a trailblazer. He blazed his way to Marysville. He had to back up Needles Mountain, and that T-model wouldn't take gas going forward. He backed up that mountain most of the time and blazed his way to Marysville. That's where he was killed by a fallen tree they were working on the highway. They had the roots cut and they was eating lunch there, and then the wind come along and that tree fell on him. That's where his career ended, right there in Marysville.
So just to get this straight, the truck didn't have enough power to go up the mountain. So he had to literally put it in reverse, look over his shoulder, and back up the mountain so he could get where he was going. Is that what you're saying?
That's right. It'd get gas backwards better than it would forwards. If you got it too straight up like that, that T-model Ford wouldn't take gas right. So backing up, it gives the carburetor plenty of fuel. He's one of the trailblazers that left here.
How long did it used to take you to get to California?
I left here in 47 on a vacation, not to live. I came back here. It took us in a 47 Chevrolet pickup 5.5 days to drive Route 66 to California. And it took me and Charlie 2 days, and we could have made it less.
All right. Another story that was requested was, I guess, rooster fighting's been a big part of your life for most of your life. Did you rooster fight when you were in Oklahoma? Did they have that here? How did that become part of who you were?
There was a guy turned some loose on our ranch, let him grow up. No, I never seen none here. But, yeah, it got to be a pretty good money racket for me, so I got to California. I went to a lot of derbies, a lot of them.
Did you ever win any big derbies?
Yeah, won Arizona, World's Derby, won Oregon, and won a whole bunch in California. We were good at it because I had a good teacher.
Who was your teacher?
Orville Hall, but he died with heart trouble. That's when I lost interest in.
What made Orville Hall a good teacher? I mean, it's hard. Roosters can't talk. They can't do much. How did he know so much?
He worked for a guy here that had about 2,000 roosters. He had Brown Reds, Smokey Wallace, and Orville was feeding roosters for him and learning from him how they put them up, how they put them in keep and whatnot. He knew what to look for in the strength of a rooster and how he ducked when he'd go out and spar him, whether he was right or whether he used his feet. Yeah, I learned from Orville Hall. He had a good teacher. Smokey Wallace got rich in the game chicken business. So it really wasn't my sport, rodeoing was, but I couldn't quit it because I made too much money.
You did make a lot of money.
Yes.
Along the way, one of the questions what was mentioned was that you may have met a bunch of famous people while chicken fighting. Is that true?
Yeah, Ray Price. Yeah, in Arizona, each guy would have a place of his own, right down through underneath the building, and places to put the roosters. So yeah, Ray Price come along and talked to us. He talked to everybody in them. He'd go on down the line. Ray Price owned a lot of game chickens, and a lot of movie stars come there and gamble, but you never hear about that.
No, you never do.
They kept it quiet because some people thought it was low class. I think deer hunting is, because you shoot him and never find some of them. Those roosters is a quick kill. They, if they didn't get hurt, they were taken good care of all their life. So yeah, deer hunting is more cruel than what chicken fighting is. A whole lot of things are, but it was looked down on more than the rest of it,
Absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah.
I remember that big trophy you brought home, right? Didn't you have a big trophy?
Yeah, I've won quite a few.
One of the crazy times I remember is in California, it's illegal to fight roosters. And I would hear stories about people going to the derbies and then having to run away from the cops. Did you ever have to do that?
I've ran away and they weren't smart enough to catch me. I've even locked my four-wheel drive and go down the river over by Riverdale. They couldn't catch me. They got stuck in the sand trying it. Yeah, I've run away from a lot of them. Got caught at just one.
Just one? What happened?
Well, we were out close to Mendota there, and we was at an old vacant gin thing out in the country, and they brought in all kinds of equipment there. Here come a catering truck even. Your brother Michael was with us, and he was just a little boy. And I told Michael, if we get caught, don't tell him you're with me, because you ain't supposed to have kids at these rooster fights. So they asked him who he was, and he said, oh, I just come from across the field over there. At least he's smart. And they wrote us up in the whole works. We had to go up in front of the judge, and the judge asked us about if there's any more rooster fighters here today, and I told him, yeah, there's one. He's in the Persian Gulf fighting a war. He was, Troy. And he said, well, tell your friend Troy he's off the hook, but he said, I bet the rest of you wish he's in the Persian Gulf. When he charged me a $175 fine, I laughed all the way out the door because we were making like a 500 to 1,000. So that didn't even slow me down.
So that was like an entry fee that day. It wasn't much.
Yeah, you know, you run into all kinds of things.
I know rooster fighting has a bad rap nowadays, but I remember how you raised them. You raised those chickens with a lot of care, a lot of concern.
Yeah.
A lot of people don't know that when they didn't die, you guys sewed them up.
Oh, they were taken good care of.
Yeah.
Everything was.
Yeah, I remember you'd give them, vitamins and.
Oh yeah, they were wormed, vitamins, you name it, good feed. They had the greatest life in the world.
Yeah.
But it all come to an end. They made every state illegal, including Oklahoma, where we're sitting now. It used to be legal. The Indian reservations, this is the Indian nation. It's supposed to never take the rights away from people. They do whatever they want to up there in the government.
Yeah.
That's why I'm going to throw Nancy Pelosi in the back room Sunday.
This is a story I think you've told a few times, but it would be nice to get it told in a quiet place like this. But we'd really like to hear about the great Jane Mayo of Okemah, Oklahoma. Excuse me.
Jane Mayo was a little frail girl. Growing up, we went to school here in Okemah, right by the rock wall where they kept the German prisoners. Jane Mayo had a rare blood disease. The doctors told her parents she may not live 3 more years. Jane Mayo was still alive. She's my age. She showed them she was wrong. She went out in hard times here when you traveling was hard, 2-horse trailer. She came across several rodeos out of that. I watched her barrel race. I had a crush on her. We picked at one another a lot in her young times. Jane Mayo was always picking at me. I'll never forget one time as years went by, she came up one day and she said, don't you think we ought to start thinking about marriage? And I said, yeah, do you think anybody'd have us? She said, you've got no class at all. None, so whatever. Yeah, Jane Mayo made this town, was proud of her. They gave her 1 day a year in her name. Barrel racers know her today. They can just get on their phones and find her. She made it big time. We were all proud of her, very proud of her. I still am.
Do you remember the time on the playground that you outrun a kid until he was worn out and then you whipped him?
Oh, that right over here at Buckeye School, close to where we're at. In those days, when somebody'd get in an argument out in the yard, if they weren't totally too big for the other one, the teacher'd tell us put the boxing gloves on. Well, we had a bully in town at school, and when we was playing ball, he'd pull your hair and he'd scare you from guarding him or anything. So my teacher one day, he was a man teacher. He called me in the schoolhouse after he seen that bully running over me and pushing me around out there. And he said, this morning when you come in on the schoolyard, you were riding your horse on one side at a high run, getting off on the other side and coming back over. He said, can he do that? And I said, no. He said, can he outrun you? I said, no. You had lined us all up the other day and you seen us race. He said, that's why you're here. Now I'm going to show you how to handle him. He said, go out there and slap him hard as you can, and then you run till he gives out. He told me just what he'd do. He said, he'll sit down when he gets tired, and you go back and you come up behind him and slap him again. Kick him or whatever. Just exactly what the teacher said. And then when we got to the schoolhouse, I jumped the fence at the schoolhouse yard, and he got tangled up in it, got worked over again. And he was wanting to give up. We got up in the schoolyard, and the teacher come out and made him apologize to every kid there one at a time.
Wow.
We made a Christian out of that guy.
Now,
he wound up to be a good friend. Yeah, that happens.
yeah. Let's see here. We got a request actually from Corey. He wants to hear your two songs.
You gotta be kidding
No,
me.
he wants to hear Cell Phone Rodeo Man, and he wants to hear Joe Louisa. So if you're ready to sing those, you can sing them, or we can sing them later.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not a singer, but if people want to hear these songs, they have the right to, because someday I'm going to get somebody famous on Cell Phone Rodeo Man. I know it'll work, because I sang it here the other night, and the people said it's a hit. Now, I'm not a singer, but I'm going to show you how it sounds, Cell Phone Rodeo Man. This started when my brother's grandson rode into the box with me. He was a good healer. He healed good. I don't know why he didn't practice that much. But we went out and made a good run. His cell phone went off before we went out, and he answered, held up the crowd. Then we made a good run. We come back, cell phone went off. We made a good run after he made everybody mad behind us. The high team run come up, went by, backed in there. Cell phone went off again. That time I rode out. I said, you know what? Everybody in the world's carrying a cell phone. They're not paying no attention to each other anymore. They don't need to. They got their cell phones. They got to be a song about it. And I still feel that way. The conversations has changed because everybody just looks at their cell phone. You know that, including me, I guess. But anyway, that song starts off like, let's see. I'm back on the road again. I'm a cell phone rodeo man. I'm a guitar picking, singing, yodeling, traveling rodeo man. I have a girlfriend in Cheyenne. She keeps a cell phone in her hand. I'm traveling all over, I'm rolling clover, I'm a cell phone rodeo man. I never camp out, I sleep indoors. I ride the range in a V8 Ford, I'm moving on. I'm in a hurry, trying to top the record of the great Ty Murray. I moved up and I moved on, getting calls on my cell phone. I have got 1,000,000 fans. I'll sign autographs at the rodeo ground. Lord knows I love this phone. Keeps me from traveling alone. I'll be making all my rounds riding for you at the rodeo ground. I never topped Ty Murray's name, but they put me in the Hall of Fame. When I retire and I go home, hang on to this old cell phone. I'll be calling all those fans, making me the first cell phone rodeo man. Well, now I'm making my last round, heading back to my hometown. There is where I'll settle down. See you all at the rodeo ground, Okemah, Oklahoma, USA. That's where I'm at today. I'm in Okemah, my hometown. I left Okemah, but it never left me.
That was really good. That was one take on the fly. What did they say about you? You're an actor, but you don't have to act. What did they say?
What'd they say about my acting?
That you're a natural actor, but you don't have to act.
Oh, Joanne said that one day.
Well, that proves it right there. Now you got one more take. You got to do Joe.
She said I was as natural as Robert Duvall.
Well, you know we have proof now.
All right, yeah.
Well, let's see if you can do it again. We got 40 days and 40 nights.
Now this is the one all the people at the ranch like. Everyone that spoke Spanish and English. They was always wanting me to record the song because they thought it was funny. And one day a guy walked up to me at work there. He was a middle-aged, handsome Mexican, very handsome guy. And all them guys called me Carlos. And he come up to me and he said, Carlos, I've been working a long time. I need a day off. I said, take 2 or 3. We got drivers over in the orchard. I'll get one of them. Well, 40 days and nights later, the ambulance come got him. And I thought, you know, there got to be something out of this. Anybody would do that. So I wrote a song and it's called 40 days and 40 nights he drank his wine. 40 days and 40 nights, Joe Louis, he had a different state of mind. Well, he jumped across the border, and the first thing he ordered was a good old American Morgan David wine. And when he got through drinking, Lord, he couldn't think which side of the border he was on. Well, he left Maria for a new senorita who lived on the California side. He told his senorita, I would like to treat you to this good old American Morgan David wine. Well, the pretty senorita, she said, Joe Louisa, I don't want to make you feel unkind. On this side the border, the women give the orders, and we don't drink none of that cheap wine. Meantime, Maria, she'd like to see him any day. She's got 7 muchachos and another on the way. She's hoping that Joe's doing fine. She knows in California he'll be drinking that Morgan David wine. Well, I hear he's in Chelina with the gal named Toledo. He's out on the town every night. They're whining and a-dining. He's thinking of Maria. He's boogieing his way to Mexico. That's the last time you'll ever see old Joe. Goodbye, Joe. Joe drank wine instead of tequila. He did.
That was another great song right there, original from Charles Rowan. Looking for somebody to sing it, someone to step up and take these songs to the next level. So, thanks, Grandpa. That was great. I want to ask a couple questions of my own. I grew up hearing some of the craziest stories from you. That's a lot. That's kind of what made this trip happen. It's just, I couldn't believe these stories of yours. And now that I'm over here in Oklahoma, I could see how they could happen. But I want to hear a couple funny stories. I want to hear about the jointed snake.
Yeah, I hate to even tell that on TV, on camera, because some people ain't gonna believe this, and neither did my folks, my uncle and his wife. A little ways from here where I was born, my favorite thing was to ride my horse. On Sunday, sometimes your brother or some relatives or neighbors, they'd come visit and sit on the porch and probably tell westerns. I don't know. I doubt whether they told the truth all the time. But anyway, I was riding my horse along the railroad track just a little ways down below me where I was born. And I seen a snake, and I got off and I hit him with a stick. This snake came loose from 3 or 4 different places. And I run my horse back up there and told him I found a jointing snake. Well, everybody had heard of it. They all come down there to see it, but the snake wasn't there. Now, how do you think that made me feel? I mean, I felt like Indian with dumb look on face. Anyway, a few years later, they had a show where they would answer any question that you might come up with. I think they called it "You Asked For It" or something. Somebody asked that question and they said, "We've heard of it a lot, but we have no proof." I've probably seen the last jointing snake in the world. And I hate to even mention that today because nobody else has ever seen one. Maybe I was in the twilight zone in them days. I was 16 years old or so.
They weren't having any peyote at the house, were they? Any peyote?
No, they weren't. They were straight people.
There you go.
I might have been having some, but I don't remember.
We talked about the jointed snake. That's Oklahoma's Bigfoot. Nevada's UFOs. They got the jointed snake here, I guess. Another snake, a famous snake, grew up hearing about my whole time, was the coach whipped snake.
Yeah, the coach whipped snake only seen 2, but I tangled with one of them. My brother James, my oldest brother, was plowing a team with a walking turning plow, 2 horses hooked to it like mine was. He plowed out a long black snake, hanging onto his reins, jumping all over the place. I was standing back behind him, stopping my team, laughing. You know, I thought it was the funniest thing I ever seen. The snake finally crawled off, and he got back to work. We made another round, and I plowed it. The fun wasn't there. And that snake stretched out. And then I went to learning about them. They're called coach whips or whip snakes or however you want to call them. I seen 2, but I had to be one of the guys that plowed them up. Never seen another and don't want to because they're scary.
Well, speaking of scary, I imagine Jake Mann experienced some scary times out there on the road with that outlaw life that we've heard a little bit about, and them coming from Missouri, all that stuff. You want to tell us a little about Jake Mann?
Well, Jake Mann was my grandpa Margaret Mann's brother. And a lot of the Rowans here don't know this, but my dad told me about Jake Mann. Jake Mann was probably one of the most unsung outlaw heroes ever was. He finally told me the whole story on it. He would park on Main Street wherever they were at in Missouri, and he'd buy horses for the outlaws. And a lot of those horses, as anybody knows, have different marks on them. So they got to showing up at some of the bank robberies and robberies the outlaws were doing. And they got so close to Jake Mann, he had to leave Missouri. And I understand that he got into a wagon train and a few things and drove his mules all the way to California. And then drove them back. That's the story I've been told. I heard he drove them down the streets of San Francisco even. And My grandpa and grandma, they left Missouri and come in here to Arkansas and then moved up into Oklahoma. We were out at the cemetery a couple of days ago at their headstones, and we were going back in history talking about it. My cousin Randy, Uncle Rufe's dad's buried beside him, and his wife, Aunt Lily. We were talking about the old days and kind of going over some of the old things that happened. We were actually from Missouri, you know, in time to come. Now we're scattered all over the United States. Yeah. We don't know where half of us is. There's a lot of roads. Some people call us rounds. Yeah. And we had two names. Some called us round, some Rowan.
Now, did you meet Grandma out here? Did you meet Grandma Debbie in Oklahoma, or?
Oh, Debbie, my Debbie.
Oh my gosh! Thank you.
You're welcome, Grandma. We love you.
Somebody must have heard me like that. Thank you.
I love you.
Guess what my name is?
Take them out my ears.
This one.
Oh gosh!
Oh God! He couldn't find it for me. He thought we got back for sure. We're like,
I love it. Thank you, everybody.
Welcome, Grandma.
Yeah.
Love you.
My Debbie, I met her in California. And she was from Old Muggy right down the road. I'm from Okemah, right here where I'm sitting pretty much. And I never met her until they had the Plantation Cafe there in Tranquility. Her mom had it there, and she worked in there. I kept coming in and out of there a few times, and if I'd have heard this then, I probably wouldn't have married her. Her mom asked her, said, "Who is that guy?" And she told her mom, "That's the guy I'm going to marry." And her mother said, "You don't know him." And she said, "Well, I'm going to marry him anyway." She didn't know me either. Now, how did, you know, that's taking advantage of you, you know. You ain't supposed to know that. When her mother told me that, I thought, you told me a little late. It's after we got married. Otherwise, that might have had a lot to do with our marriage.
You know, Grandma was close to God, so maybe he told her that gave her that little message.
Well, we had a good life, 61 years. Long. You can get along with any woman 61 years if you let them wear the pants. It wasn't that way in our case. You know, we kind of figured it out together. But that's our life story there.
Yeah.
Got a bunch of great grandkids. Charlie behind the camera, he's not a great when he's a grandkid. There's a difference. They get better as they go along. The first grandkids don't listen that much. I don't know, it kind of bugs me too. I want to tell them how to do things, but they don't listen all the way.
Yeah, that's true.
They don't listen.
Yeah. The great grandkids, well, I hope they listen better than we did. A lot of us had to learn the hard way, but we've learned it. If you look at every one of us, the grandkids they've all taken their own path, but they're figuring it out.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a whole different world. I left when I was here as a youngster growing up. We've driven all over this Buckeye County, Okefuskie County, back in here where I grew up. All gravel roads. You can get over the dirt roads. Used to never have gravel on them. There's good highways coming through here. Places you couldn't get a car over when I was a kid, you can travel it now easy. And back then, my saddle horse was my only transportation. If you had a car, you couldn't drive it half the time because Charlie can tell you right here, every 4 or 5 days you get rain, at least every 3 weeks.
Heavy rain.
And I'm about to freeze out here in California in May. I'm in Oklahoma in May. I got to go back to California to get warm. But there's evergreen trees everywhere you look. It's cattle country. It's I can't believe I'm back here looking at the things I'm looking at. It's grew up in evergreen trees. You go along the highways, and some pastures are clean. There ain't too many trees in them. And then you see somebody that he'll have a place that's all grown up. And you know, I don't think I'd buy that because it'd take a long time to clear it. And that's the way it is. You see one or several farms open ground, and then you see one that they let get away.
Yeah.
They should have went in there and pushed them trees out when they were little, and it wouldn't have been hard to do. But some of them let them get away.
That's true.
They have.
I know we've talked a lot about Oklahoma. We've talked a lot about, you know, what you were when you were a kid. But I want to talk a little bit about who you are and who you became in your life now that you're 84 years old. You've lived a great life. And one thing that's always stuck out to me is you were never overly religious, you know, but you always did what was right. You always did the things that needed to be done. What made you that way? I remember you always say that one man's opinion story is one of the things that made you that way. But what made you who you were? I mean, I see where you came from, but who are you as a person?
Who am I?
Yeah.
I'm just a regular guy. There's nothing special about me. I never won big time rodeos or did any of those things. I was pretty busy in California, you know. I was pretty busy. I got busy there, and I've heard times got good here again, but I never came back. I just kept raising the family and kept doing what I was doing, and I can't believe I waited 60 years or so to come back and see this kind of change.
Yeah.
But it fascinates me to see everything. It looks like everybody's got plenty of money here, and I don't know why it looks that way.
Yeah.
You know, you go along here, and Charlie's got pictures of this country, and you can see, you know, churches, huge buildings, and a lot of brick buildings here, a lot of rock buildings. They're making them different now, most of them.
Yeah.
You don't see too much boards going up.
That's true.
It's a changed deal since I've been here. But Okemah, it had all brick buildings in it, hotels and all that, you know. And for once a year, some movie star would come here. I've seen practically all of them, you know, like Roy Rogers type. They'd lead the parade up. And then we'd get to the top of of Main Street, and then we'd turn right down to the rock wall that the WPA built. That's where the rodeo grounds were. And that once a year, nobody worked. I mean, they were here in Okemah. And that was one day we looked forward to. I've rode in that parade on my paint horse. I looked forward to that. Calm him down a long time before that day came, but yeah, you know, it's a whole different. I don't think they have that parade as strong as they used to. It ain't the same. You don't see covered wagons in it, longhorns pulling them. It's a whole different parade like most other places.
Yeah.
But this town has a lot of history in it. A lot of history in it.
Yeah, no doubt about it.
It does.
Now, speaking of, and you don't know these questions, I'm just asking you a bunch of questions offhand. You know, they call this God's country, you know. And I know someday some people are going to want to know how you felt about God. How you know, how do you feel about God? nowadays, now that you see what's going on.
How I feel about God?
Yeah.
I feel all the way about God. I believe there's another world, and I believe people should know that. I don't feel like you got to be just one religion or this or walk the line doing things. I think as long as you do right and try to do right, I think He's on your side too. You know, I don't feel like you got to let somebody just stand up there and holler at you all the time. That gets a little annoying. But, you know, it's, I like the cowboy church, the ones that come to our rodeos.
Yeah.
Susan McIntyre. They tell a story and they tell a religion, but they don't bore you with it. I've been to a few churches where they yell at you and no, they don't quite ever get it with me.
Yeah.
Yeah, you don't even need that.
Definitely.
They're changing a lot about that.
They are.
Yeah, there's several things here that's changed, you know. The teaching has changed a lot. Not that they weren't good teachers here, but they didn't need to have the authority they had. And boy, one I disagree on is that teacher that all of them had a pedal about 2 foot long, cut down to fit their hand on one end and holes drilled in it, and it was about 4 inches across it. Well, I was famous for getting beat with them because I couldn't quit talking most of the time, and I'd be told not to talk and I'd forget. I've been worked over from stem to stern with them. I wonder if they'd have done that if I was full grown. I don't think so. Then the law changed. They can't use them anymore, and they didn't need to then because some kids are scared to death to go to school.
Yeah.
And they'd make you stand up there in front of the class, stick your nose and stand on your toes and ring on the blackboard. Well, you might have a girl you was trying to impress in school and she was laughing at you. So that day changed just before I got a hold of one of them teachers that used that board. I never did find one. But I was totally against that.
Yeah.
That was one rule I'm totally against, and it went out of style. And that was wrong. I think parents should take care of their kids. They could send a note home with them or something like that, you know.
Yeah. Now,
The other one was, babies ain't born like they were then. It'd be a neighbor woman or a mid woman come over to your house. Babies were born at home here. I was. They picked you up with the feet and they spanked your butt until you cried. Nobody comes in this world looking for a fight. So that was wrong again, but it's all right. Toughen some of us up.
Sure.
We can live with that.
Now, you brought up being a tough son of a gun. One of the toughest things growing up with you was you didn't like music on in the truck. I think we drove 1,400 miles before I turned the radio on this trip, because you always said this one thing. You said, I don't need radio because I'm always thinking. What were you thinking about?
A lot of different things. I'm always thinking. That's why most of the time when I was a kid, I'd ride my horse out and I'd think about things. As a teenager, you probably mostly know what I was thinking of. You know, girls and different things, you know, what life is going to be like down the road. And I was always a thinker. I still am. I spent a lot of time just being alone out there, riding out cross country, you know.
Yeah.
So that's the way I kind of grew up.
You built your chicken houses,
Oh, yeah.
your 5
Yeah.
acres. Did you think about everything you did there before you didn't
Yeah,
just jump in?
You think ahead a long time, you know. And when I kept going to those rooster fights with my buddy, he went to showing me things that, you know, would strengthen the birds, crossbreed them, this and a whole lot of things. We watched for things all the time that made us better at what we were doing. And most people didn't pay much attention to that. But it's just like rodeoing, team roping. Corey Cavallo's famous for this. he watches everything goes on. He watches how they lean, how they feed their rope, the style that they use. You ought to be famous some of these days, Corey Cavallo. Even though you're Portuguese. That's that joke again. Portuguese don't have a dumb look on the face, that's the Indian. Anyway, that's the way life is, you know. You go on and you make the best of it. No matter where you live, people are over friendly here. I'll have to say that about Oklahoma. We was out on the road filming, Charlie flying his drone over town and places where I used to live. Strangers would come by and get a little bit wondering what we was doing, and we got invited to lunch by some of them. Come up to Okemah Lake, see my longhorn cattle. I'm not used to that too much, but they're over friendly here because you get a lot of these ladies and they'll talk. I'd like to see a little break in there where I could respond to some of that talk, but they're over friendly, they are.
Yeah.
But that's good, you know, they care.
Another thing that I find interesting is you say that you never envisioned the future like you're living in now, with cell phones and TVs everywhere.
No. When I was growing up, telephones wasn't coming through here. We didn't have one, but there were no electric lights. You used kerosene lights. Your firewood was wood. It's changed to a whole different world. And those young people out there, you got the greatest life in the world. You got it easy. I would have liked to tuck any of you 2 weeks with me when I was a kid. We'd run out into the barn and milk 10 head of cows. We'd rush that milk back in the house, turn it through the separator and separate the cream from the milk. Come back at night and do the same thing, and then cut the firewood for the cook stove and a different kind of firewood for the fireplace. We worked all the time. Everybody did.
Did you have a toilet, a sink? Did you have to go get your own water? I mean, how was that? How'd that all work out?
What was that?
Water.
You carried it from your well. Most of them was an open well. You drawed it up with a bucket and you carried it to the house. When you needed to take a bath on Saturday night, you had a lot of water to carry. But better yet, a lot of times we jumped in the creeks instead of taking a bath. You don't have to be that clean. You wash off your enamel, the natural enamel of your body. You know, you don't want to. You leave a little film on there, you live better.
Yeah.
You know, we're too clean now, but boy, we got a place here we've been staying, and these are the cleanest, neatest people I've ever seen. Everybody is. You know, they just. I just can't believe times has changed, and that's the way it is, you know. It's a different world here, it's a different world everywhere.
So when you were growing up, you said that you couldn't believe what we see now. What do you think we're going to see 50 years from now?
You know, from what I've seen to this point, I heard a guy talking, you know, on TV here a while back, and he said from right now to somewhere from 60 to 70 years from now to then, will be as far as going back from now to the horse and buggy. Wow. The horse and plow was where I was at. I plowed them. I made a living with them. Now, can you imagine where we're at now? It's tractors that can drive themselves. I came to Tranquil and picked cotton by hand. I don't want anybody in California to get offended, but I left a 5-room house here in Oklahoma with a fireplace in it to move in Blackwood's camp that was only 15 by 20 foot shack. I picked cotton by hand, and then I got a job driving a tractor out for Martin Costellas. He got the first cotton picker come in, One Row International. We took the farm tractor and it fit it, and that's where you put your picker on that tractor. Turned it around and run it backwards. And then pickers was coming in from everywhere. And those people want to leave in them camps. They went home. By that time, this country was getting better. They were people there from nearly every state. Like Marchini had tents for houses on their ranch up there. They were people here from Oregon and everywhere else.
Did you say one row? One row cotton picker?
Yeah.
One row?
Yeah.
What are they up to now?
Up to, well, I think they got 6 and 8, maybe 8 rows of that.
Wow.
That makes a round bell at the end, kicks it out on the end. Now they don't need trailers. They don't need the guy under the gin suck. They don't, trailers we used to haul cotton off in Tranquility, they don't need none of them now. They, everything has changed so quick, you know. And my dad and his 2 brothers run hay balers here in Oklahoma. It took a lot of people to run it, you know, and cut hay and push that hay up to the baler, which usually was my job. That took a team because they had to be wide apart, you know. They cut with a tractor, and I raked with a team a lot of times. With that rake is sitting in everybody's yard nowadays. Anyway, when the war took all the young guys out of here, and people got busy on their farms and getting behind on them, they let the German prisoners come out and work for us. And they came out and worked in the hay fields. I couldn't believe we was in the war because they were nice people. But we were killing one another over there. The interpreter said, there's 2 kinds of Germans. There's a kind of Germans that we are. Then there's Hitler follows. He said they would shoot you in a minute if they had a chance, even right here. But he said they're in a different prison camp. He said, we didn't want no more part of that war than you did. He said that Hitler was mean. He'd have your family killed if you didn't tell him what to do, if you didn't do what he was told. But the German people are 2 different breeds. There's a good German, and over there was a different German, you know. So anyway, when we were growing up here, hard times fell on this country. First thing happened, the war broke out. They took every young guy in this country, and I was at the reunion down here at the Rock Wall. They took every young guy that was possibly able to go, took him to a war that's already started. I went to the reunion down there in that 10-acre thing, and if you want to see sad people, you go down and look at their brothers watching their young kids going off to war that's already going on. And they had another reunion there after the war. They didn't all come back. Me and Charlie went up this morning and looked at the cemetery up here on Graveyard Hill. You won't believe how big it is. Well, while that time was going on, they hit Pearl Harbor. And then we went out later on and dropped an atomic bomb, which nobody wanted to do, because that don't just kill men, it killed kids too, women. That was sad times. We didn't know if we was going to win that war or not. And everything just kept going wrong, one right after another. Well, that war caused the economy here to get bad because we couldn't get tires for our tractors or cars. I remember ours sitting on a flat out there with a bad tire. They'd hook up their teams again to get to town. That war, a lot of people don't speak of it the way I see it, but the war crippled this country a lot. And then it just happened that way, you know. Everything was totally bad. Then we weren't quite out of business until that boll weevil come in here. And we farm cotton here on rain moisture, and peanuts. And that boll weevil took care of that. You could raise a stalk, but you couldn't raise no fruit on it. And that's what I remember my dad said, you know, everything else has been thrown at us, now the boll weevil took the rest of it. So we might as well pack up and get out of here.
Yeah.
That's about the end of it. I left and I ain't never been back till lately.
Yeah, I imagine seeing what you did with those kids going away and not coming back probably really made you appreciate life more.
You won't know how much. And you don't know how sad it was for a long time. I couldn't get over it hardly. And I was just a kid, you know. Grown people had a hard time with it, you know.
Yeah.
If you never seen, maybe 800 or so people were in that park that day, because they was from Henrietta, Okemah, Tulsa, and all around here came there for the reunion. And them was really sad people, because their kids were going to awards already going on that we didn't even think we was going to win.
Yeah.
And we wasn't that sure we was going to win it.
Definitely does make you appreciate life. One of the things that's really obvious to anybody who knows you is that one of the most successful things you did was picking Grandma. She was an amazing woman.
Well, you would just have to know her body language toward me, and we just communicated with each other. If any of my grandkids or anybody that wants to know Debbie, she's buried in Kerman. So am I. I'm already buried. We share the same headstone. You'll see a famous picture that I've always liked to see, is the way she was looking at me. I've seen it 1,000,000 times. And it just seemed like I had a way of giving in to her if I needed to. But she didn't always ask me to give in to her. Debbie let me live a life on a loose rein. I could go do things and she wouldn't question me about it because she didn't worry about me. Same way with her. We didn't tie one another in a knot or argue about where we've been or where we're going. We just kind of knew that. And as years went by, it stayed that way, you know. I don't know at the times I'd tell her no, and I'd see that look for a while, and she had a way of getting right up and looking at me, and I'd say, yeah, go ahead, do that. Her body language taught me a lot. That's the way it was with her. She was something else.
Yeah, she was.
And she wasn't straight out. She had humor a lot of times, you know. And mostly because she thought so much of other people, like grandkids.
Look at that girl go. Woo. Yeah-ho! Now she's a cowgirl for real. Woo! Ain't that fun? Oh boy.
And friends and whatnot. I'd better not ever say nothing bad about anybody, because first thing I know is, and her famous words was, you wouldn't know how that person feels until you walked in his shoes. And I wouldn't either. So we don't want to be saying things we don't understand. Well, I got thinking about that. That's really true. You know, a lot of times you want to judge somebody. You don't know what that person, you don't know what you do until you walked in his shoes and was thinking about what he was thinking. You know, you never know that. That's a whole different ball game. So I learned a lot from her. I think she was my best teacher without a board with holes drilled in it.
Yeah, you guys were really a great team. Great team.
You know, and I've noticed all you grandkids and great-grandkids, they thought she was a queen of some kind.
It just shows how much she loved everyone. You know, one thing about Grandma, she just never said no. She never said no. And,
that's true. That's true.
You know, she would say no to bad things, but if you ever needed anything, or if you ever came on hard times, you could depend on Grandma to say yes. I will help you.
Yep.
You know, and
Yep. She'd get around and do it. You know.
she would. She would. We haven't obviously talked about many of these questions. We're just going off of your heart and your mind. What did you enjoy most about being a father?
Oh, I enjoyed the kids when they was growing up. You know, they were little, and if I knew they was going to grow up like this now, I'd probably give them a whipping every day. But anyway, I like my kids growing up, and I like everybody else's kids. They're so cute when they're little, you know. Naturally, mine was more important to me, but I see a kid out there, I still think a lot of little people, you know. And that's just the way I've always felt. I've always felt that. Well, yeah, I was close to my kids growing up, you know. You all go through bad times and good times with your kids growing up grown. You all do. I'm probably sure I might have been a little painful at times, but I don't remember it. I think I'm perfect. I remember.
You say that with a straight face. One thing I noticed is, like you said, we've all gone through hard times, you know, in the family. We've had our ups, we've had our downs. But one thing I noticed the Rowan way is you raise some pretty tough kids. They're not afraid to start over, not afraid to, they're tough, they're strong.
Yeah.
You know, I'm sure you noticed that too about them.
Yeah, they're still that way though. You know, like my son, he had some problems, I guess it's cancer in his throat. And it didn't slow him down. He got over it and he can't see any changes. He happy as one of these people that overtalk. I can't get used to their ways. It's like my lifestyle, I gotta start over again. I don't remember it being like this. You stop at a restaurant, they practically gonna take you home. I never seen nobody so friendly as the state of Oklahoma. If you don't believe me, come here and visit with them.
Yeah.
You won't believe the difference.
Yeah, definitely.
Old or young, they're all the same.
Yeah.
Great state to be in.
Yeah, I've always enjoyed your kids. My mom, Uncle Chris, Aunt Karen, Alyssa. Just everybody's been. It's been fun to watch because they're so inspiring. You know, life is not easy.
No.
It's not.
No.
But everybody always gets back up on that horse, and I think that's one thing.
You get bucked off, you get back on.
Yeah. And just when you think you're about done rodeoing, you get thrown so high. What happens?
If you get thrown high enough, there's a lot of blue jays in this state. That's where they build their nest before you hit the ground.
That's too funny. That's too funny. So,
yeah, there's a lot of blue jays here. There's things in this state you don't see in others. There's a lot of things here that don't grow in other states. We've got one of them in the car called a terrapin. He ain't a turtle, but he's little. He only grows so big, and he's a terrapin. And it's just the way it is here. You know, everything is totally okay. I'm really proud of the way people have kept this country going. I would have a little trouble here buying property, you know, because some of them let the cedars grow, and there wasn't none of them trees here when I was here. There weren't any cedar trees here. There was 3 cedar trees right close to where I was born, and we used to cut a limb off every year and take to Buckeye school. And we'd put it in the schoolhouse. There's cedar trees all over this state. And in some places, they've took over the pastures. That's the people that didn't knock them out while they was little. You know, someday they're going to have a little trouble selling that property if they ever want to, because they let it go too long. There ain't much of that, but there's a little, some of it.
Yeah, that's true.
Guys got to be careful if he ever buys any of that property and get ready for a big cleanup. A lot of the rodeo countries up around Guthrie, Oklahoma, the Lazy Arena, and back in that way in Oklahoma City, they have a lot of rodeo stuff up there.
Yeah.
That's the main part of your rodeo country.
Speaking of horses, I don't think we could tell your story without, everybody knows you're a modern day horse whisperer.
This is your secondary string. That's what you start riding with when you get him to riding bridleless. Because this is not riding bridleless, this is part of your training. Now we're riding bridleless.
Once again, this is a demonstration of my father, Charles Rowan. He's 80 years old, and it's called bridleless riding. Takes a lot of time and training to get to know your horse this well. As you can see, he can go left and right and change some leads there. He's just warming them up a little bit. This is a roping head box. He's showing you he can go in the head box. This is all leg movement. He's asking his horse to back up in the corner.
You can train a horse. It's just in your blood. Why the horse? Why do you love it so much? Horses.
Why do I like them so much?
Why do you love them so much?
I ain't much different than any other cowboy. Your horse will come before anything. It's just, I don't know, it's some kind of thing you grow with. You can take your horses and go roping. They're mostly because they're your entertainment. To me, it's always entertaining. And I've trained a lot of horses. The thing is, it was always take that wild animal that don't really want you around and put knowledge into his head until he becomes a good partner. That was always fun, And it's just something that's kind of, you learn more about it all the time, Instead of putting a blindfold on him and bucking him until he quits bucking, that old day passed. I did a little of that. Sometimes I won and sometimes the horse won. So that you don't do that no more. You pretty well have your horse broke when you get on him before he's bucking you off. And the whole world's changed just like any other technology has. But believe me, they worked millions of horses here before I was ever born, or in other places too. Without them, you wouldn't survive. Without them plowing the ground, pulling you wagons, taking you to town, that's why I'm so proud of them, because they were the biggest tool that people ever knew. And most people don't give it any thought.
No, not at all. We talk about horsepower.
Yeah.
We don't even think what that meant back in the day.
No, they don't.
If you had to explain to somebody or help them understand how to train a horse, what would be the first thing, or what would be the main thing you would tell them to understand the mind of a horse?
First thing I'd tell somebody that didn't know about horses, come to me and other teachers. We'll teach you what to do before you get in there messing with that horse. and we'd teach him how you handle him, how you put him in a round creel, how you work him, how you drive him later on, flex him, take his power away if he bucks. A lot of people don't do that today. They get on their horse and never think about that, and might have a horse they know might buck. Well, if they were just sitting up there on that horse, how hard is it to flex his head back here? And most people don't think that's important. Flex his head back on this side. Pretty soon, if you flex it around here and hold it till he asks for pressure, to release pressure, he'll go ahead and stick his nose toward you, release him. Pretty soon you can take one finger and pull that head around, because I'm going to get relief when I get over there. Mm-hmm. If he starts to buck, that's the most important part of a horse. If he starts shaking his head or backing his ears or crow hopping, he'll give you his head because you've always taught him that. He'll give it to you before he thinks. And then that takes his power away because he don't know what to do, and he's not thinking, I'm going to buck straight ahead and buck him off, because you screw up his thinking. And that's a big deal in horse training, but nobody uses it much, you know. Yeah. Clinton Anderson did. He on TV. That's his most important thing. He was a great, in my way of thinking, probably the greatest horse trainer. I don't know why they took him off of TV lately. Nobody else did.
I grew up on the ranch with you. I was lucky enough to be out there, but I would laugh. So, I mean, as a little kid, I would walk by that circle arena right next to where Landon used to live. How did you ever learn to put a pole with a piece of tarp on it and tie it to the saddle to make a horse a better horse? I mean, how did you come up with these things? Did you learn them?
Some people use a flag, you know, they'll hold on to their lead rope and hold the flag over them and stuff like that. I just kind of made it a little more permanent, where they'd have to wear it all day. Actually, it's a lazy way out.
Oh, it was?
Yeah.
Or smart, right?
Yeah. I mean, smarter than the average bear.
There you go.
And more lazy than the average bear, because let the horse do the work.
Did it work?
Oh yeah. Anything flopping up there, they get used to it. I do that on a round thing. I'll tie things alongside them, wind whooping them all day. You better not walk up to a wild horse and let that hit him. He'll show you where I'm going. You know.
Yeah.
See, to get back to your question, to train young people to train horses, go to school first, and they'll probably teach you free if you're related to them. And otherwise, you're going to get hurt, or you're going to get bucked off if you don't take some schooling.
Yeah.
And that's for sure. Don't forget that. You know, if you don't know what you're doing with a horse, you can get hurt on a gentle horse. I have sometimes from time or two, I've had people say, I want to come out and ride your horse. You know, they might be young people. Have you ridden before? Oh, once or twice. Now, you won't come out and go to school. Then you ride the horse. Well, they don't want to go to school, so I don't see them anymore, but that's all right. You know,
Yeah.
you can't control everything.
You can.
You try.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Who listens to everything?
Who is your favorite horse? Did you have a favorite horse?
Oh, I only own two now. I got a dun horse that we use on the hills, and I got another one we call Hemi, we use on the head. I have to be about either one of them, you know. The dun horse, we call her Bill Star, named after an outlaw here in Oklahoma. She's the prettiest, but yeah, I'd have to say for look she is. The other one's a pretty good horse. There's so many horses nowadays. In mine, that'd be the deal. There's a lot of horses out there in California. These cowboys it's a growing sport. If you're going to get in the horse business, go get on a gentle horse if you just want to ride one day or something. If you get interested, learn the business before you get out there, you might get hurt. you know. But there's gentle horses you can get on and get by with riding them, especially in a dude ranch or something. Don't go to somebody's roping horses and think you know what you're doing, because they're trained to move when you want to move, you know.
Definitely.
So I don't want all you young people to get chewed up just because you're not ambitious, that you do things.
Now, one of the things that I know over the last few years that you've really gotten into is bull riding. It's a big part of your life. You watch a lot of bull riding.
Well, I watch a lot of it because it's a real dangerous sport, and the reason it holds so many people is it is a dangerous sport. I mostly watch it just see who's going to be top man at the finals, and it gets interested who's winning. That's a sport that's dangerous, and if you think anything about living a strong, long life, get into something else, because it's not if you get hurt, it's when you get hurt. And then they tell you that right on the show. Well, in my way of thinking, who would get on a bull that weighs over 1,000 pounds, him jumping up high and could come right down in your chest with his feet? I mean, that ain't smart. But, you know, they kind of feel like I'm a hero. Look at me. Hey, especially all you girls out there, I'm tough. You know, that's kind of the way I see it.
Yeah.
But no, it's not a sport I'd use. I wouldn't do it.
Yep.
I tried it a couple of times right here in Okemah.
You did?
Oh yeah, Jim Shoulders, well, when he was famous, he used to come down here and we'd ride some bulls right there in the East End where we seen that horse yesterday.
Who's Jim Shoulders?
Jim Shoulders is a famous bull rider. He won the world
Oh, really?
time or two. But he put on a show down there, and I rode a bull, Bremer bull. I rode him that day, and I got off good. The next day, I got on one and I got hung up, like you see a lot of it, you know. And I stayed on my feet 2 or 3 rounds. Then I got loose from him. And when Mama heard about that, she said, "You're not going to be a bull rider." And I knew she was meaner than the bull. So I decided, no, that's not my game. It's more dangerous to face her than the bull. Well, my brother Carol come along, and he rode bareback horses in the rodeos for 2 or 3 years. Travels. He didn't care what you thought, but I know it put a lot of pressure on her. You know.
Tell us a little about your brothers.
Oh, my oldest brother Billy I never met. He's right over there by my grandparents. You seen that?
I did.
And he died before he was 7 years old. He died before I knew him. My oldest brother, he done some time in the war. You know, he didn't have to go to war, but he did some service time.
Was that James?
James. And there wasn't no war going on when he's in, so he got lucky there. And he came out just to be a regular person. Like,
That's good.
I like horses, I like this. But he was the kind of guy that was a shade tree mechanic. I heard a guy one time say he could take 2 pieces of iron and make a motor. He could fix anything. He worked for the district in Tranquility for years. He run a drag line a lot.
Yeah.
And when that high water come over there in Tranquility that time, they said we couldn't save the levee. Well, the district sent his drag line and a dozer out, and I had a Wagner there with a carryall on it. We worked day and night. We didn't get hardly any sleep. And when a crack had come in that levee, we'd go down with a dozer and shut that crack off. And when we got through fighting it, we saved the town, and next thing we called for was anybody got car bodies, bring them out there and we'll put them in the bin. Kept washing too fast. They were people dragging cars out there that even run. I mean, they were junk completely.
Yeah.
And we'd take a dozer and we'd shove them off of that levee. and it quit washing. So we kept throwing dirt there with our carryalls and stuff.
Could that levee, if that levee would have broke, would it have flooded Tranquility?
It would have flooded Tranquility. Bob Rappman he had it surveyed, and he put up sacks around his house and sandbags. He said, yeah, it will flood Tranquility if it breaks. But I don't remember anybody coming out there and helping us. All I remember is Bob Rappman coming out saying, you can't save it, why don't you just get out of here?
But he was wrong.
He was wrong.
He was wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that was James. Who's next?
James, he was a hard-working man.
Yeah, he was.
A good man.
He was tall, too. I remember him being very tall.
Yeah, he was tall.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was. He grew up here.
You're still close to his kids, right?
Oh, yeah, they're like my own kids, you know. We get along great. Eddie, Dennis, all of them, you know. Yeah, very close people.
Yeah, they're good people.
His wife's my age. She's still healthy. And, yeah, everybody gets along pretty good.
Yeah.
Real good.
Eddie had to show some of that Rowan toughness this last year, though.
Yeah, I guess so.
He did it.
I'm sure every generation or every name had to be a little tough to survive.
I agree.
Everybody did, even the farmers in Tranquility. Like my good friend Corey Cavallo. His grandpa milked cows when he was a youngster. They didn't nobody give him nothing. I mean, he milked cows. I'd see him with rubber boots on. And he had kind of a southern western drawl with his talking, you know, and he could tell a joke that nobody else could tell. And he would, he won the name Tex. Everybody called him Tex, wearing that cowboy hat. And Anthony right now, he's not driving, I don't think. He's kind of got to a point, you know. Corey and his dad run the ranch, and they take care of everything. They do. I don't know. I hope you don't see this film, but I thought they was the best farmers in town. I really still think that.
Yeah.
They grow very good crops. And yeah, definitely good crops.
So that was James. So who's your other brother? Carol, right?
Carol.
Yep.
Carol was in the cattle business all his life. He worked cattle ranches. Yeah, I used to go help him when I get a chance. And that's about the way his life was. He worked the cattle ranches everywhere he went.
Yeah.
He was in 3 or 4 different ranches. The last one, I think he worked for Bill Jones, who got run for governor. Bill Jones come out and ride his buckskin horse with us. Smoke his pipe and get up in front of the herd when we take him to high country. And I thought, boy, I hope that guy gets elected governor. I rode with him. I'll be telling that 100 times a day. I rode with Bill Jones. And then I got to thinking, maybe if I don't like something's going on, I'll tell him to try to do something. But anyway, Bill Jones didn't get to be governor because California's never had a governor like he would have been. He would have been for the farmers and whatnot, and been a good governor.
Yeah.
He was just that way.
Yeah.
But he didn't win.
I think one of the funniest things about Carol is because I don't understand cattle, but I would go anytime we go over his house. He would have that cattle show on where they're auctioning off big herds of cattle and on TV.
Yeah.
I just thought that was the funniest thing, but to him, you know, it was real important. Cattle.
Yeah, I remember one time, his wife Lydia, we were always close, her and Dovey and I, and Lydia was the person that had a humor. I mean, it could just come out of nowhere, you know. But they were pulling a calf, and this cow one time was having a calf, and Lydia made the mistake by going around in front of the cow. And the cow just chewed her up for breakfast. I mean, she was bleeding all over her face, chewed up real good. They come by my house going to the doctor in a hurry, you know. Scared me when I seen all that blood on her. It wasn't that bad, but it looked like it. They got to the hospital and they called the law on Carol because they thought maybe he did it.
Oh no.
Even though she told them he didn't, they wanted to make sure it was cow marks instead of something he did.
Wow.
I told Lydia, the best place for you is behind the cow. Don't get in front of it.
And then you're still close with Carol's kids as well too, right?
Oh
Chad?
yeah, I know Chad and Chance. Yeah, we get along great.
Yeah, they're good guys.
Chad lives out on Carol and Lydia's ranch, and they got about 60 acres down along the San Joaquin River with sometimes good bass fishing. I go down there and catch a few bass and ride the river horseback. The water is crystal clear in the San Joaquin River. You can almost see the bottom, you know. Yeah, they got a nice little place there. Yeah, good house that Lydia and Carol built. Chad lives there.
Yeah.
He takes care of the ranch.
Yeah, that river is about the closest thing to Oklahoma when you're out there. It feels good, it
Yeah.
feels free, it's clean.
Yeah, I go down through there just clearing my head sometimes riding.
Yeah, that's a beautiful place. Do you have any sisters?
Oh yeah, and my oldest sister, she came to this country before 47. That's who we was coming to see on vacation. She moved to Pinedale, and he was working on the golf yard. Well, they stayed in this country for years. Yeah, Charlie was asking me about my sisters. I had Ann, Juanita, Betty, and Kathy, 4 sisters. They lived a normal life. My oldest sister got married here in Oklahoma, moved to California. She had some great kids, Henry, Joyce, and Alan. Juanita got married and she had a girl and a boy. Betty, she had 2 children, 1 boy and 1 girl. Kathy, she's got a daughter, really a fine girl. We met her after she was nearly grown. Playing at one of Michael's concerts, she came down. That's about all about the girls. They just got married, had families, and they had children, not a whole bunch. Each one of them had 2, so. And there's one thing I don't want to ever forget that happened here when I was about 14 years old. I was working with my dad, my oldest brother James, and Mr. Matthew, and his grandson James Harvey. We went down the highway here from where we was farming. We crossed a creek, and on that side there was a field of corn we were farming. Well, we have 1 tractor, but it wouldn't pull that wagon across there. The horses would, so we was gathering it with horses. And we gathered most of the corn with horses. They tore less down. But anyway, we filled the wagon full. It had sideboards on it. We got back across the creek. We got alongside the highway. And we were kind of traveling along the edge of the highway. There's a lot of wagons run along in the dirt there. It's smooth dirt. Me and James Harvey had our feet hanging off the back. And being mischievous probably saved her life, but I don't tell any other kids to do that because it won't save yours, probably. We were shelling corn and watching for cars coming by, and we'd throw it up in the air like rain, you know. And we wouldn't let Dad and Mr. Matthew catch us doing that. Or James, he'd probably told on us. But anyway, they were up in there and James was driving. We seen this car coming, and if anything, it was speeding up, and another car coming in front. There weren't that much traffic in them days. The car behind us kept drifting over till he hit us dead center. But it gave me and James Harvey enough time to jump up from the back of the wagon. We might have got 5 feet away from the back and it hit. It buckled the wagon, It almost shelled some of the corn. The horses like they never got back to their feet. I wound up under the front wheels and not getting run over, shoved the motor all the way back to the seat, and the driver and his daughter and his brother got his knee hurt, but it wasn't permanent. The driver had a bloody nose. His daughter had a few burns on her legs. That was probably the worst day of my life, and almost like to have been the end. The horses finally got up, and they run off with the front wheel and the tongue. They turned left down a dirt road where we lived, and the neighbors were out close to the road and heard them coming, and they got them stopped. They were about run out by that time. One of them was damaged real deep from a board, but she got over it. And that was almost the worst day of my life. Well, it was the worst day of my life, and almost been the last. So every time I see it, the guy driving the car was a retired train engineer. And every time I see a train come by, sometimes I still think of it. Is that guy asleep? You know, because that's what happened there. The driver went to sleep. He was out of Ohio coming through Oklahoma, so he didn't live here. I still see a train once in a while, think about that, and I'm so thankful I survived that and the rest of them. We managed to get by without getting hurt. They said that's the worst wreck they've ever seen without somebody getting hurt. Not many people can say they was in a wagon wreck.
No, they can't.
They can't. So that's the way it is.
Now, when you say a wagon, you're talking horse and buggy, right? You're not talking a station wagon.
I'm talking about a wagon. There's a difference in a buggy and a wagon.
There is. What's the difference?
A wagon hauls freight less like. That's what you haul your... they traveled in on the covered wagons. Them was regular wagons. A buggy's just a little fancy thing you drive down maybe with one horse or two.
Okay.
With kind of a top on it.
Well, it took us 1,700 miles to get here to Oklahoma. We've driven over 600 miles inside of Oklahoma looking for history on Grandma and history on you. You were a lot easier. She was tough. But we're getting ready to leave for California in the morning. And just wanted to give you a chance to say goodbye to Oklahoma and, you know, whatever else you got to say.
Only thing I want to say is I found Oklahoma unbelievable. If nobody's ever been here, that old slang about Okies and this and that, come see it before you go to making too much fun of it. You won't believe where you're at, and you're probably going to see a nicer place than you live in. We've got proof here on camera. We've flown drones around here. This is a beautiful country. And it rains about every 5 to 2 weeks, and no more than a 3. You get a good rain, comes over, everything's green, the grass grows year round. I can see why it went to cattle country. You know, it just rains all the time nearly, and when you need it. I never seen such a change in my life as I've seen now, back to the plow and the horses. See, I'm leaving Oklahoma with memory that I didn't even dream I'd find when I came here again, but it's here, it's beautiful, and I wish it had been that way when I was a kid. Other people helped build it when I left. I want to thank them. There's something about where you come from. I don't care what state it is. You know, it's in your mind forever. You might leave it, but it don't leave you, you know. So your teenage years determine a big part of your life. It does. You can see that as kids grow up. They kind of go bad or good in their teen years. So hammer them pretty hard right now because they're teenagers. They don't think like grown-ups.
What's your advice? One man's opinion?
Here's my advice to anybody, grown or teenager or what. I've always thought of this when I was starting to get into trouble. One man's opinion is the same as one man's opinion standing in a crowd. If you think they're all wrong, do what you're thinking. Think for yourself.
Yep.
That's why I'd probably be a hard case if I was on jury trial. If they didn't see it my way, we'd just overthrow the whole thing out. Let somebody else judge it. You know.
Yeah. Well, thank you for this journey, Charles Rowan. Thank you for everybody who helped make it happen. It's been a fun time hearing all the stories, and I know California is California. It has some good, it has some bad, but a lot of people that we love live there, and I look forward to getting back to it. But this is a beautiful place. It's definitely like nothing I've ever seen. Thank you.
Okay, I want to tell you, all you cowboys out there, my team roping buddies, if you've never rode a bronc in Oklahoma, you've never been thrown. Because these Oklahoma horses can throw you so high till the blue jays will build a nest in your butt before you hit the ground. That's why I'm riding an alligator. He's more gentle than these horses here. So come to Oklahoma and get on one. You really learn how to ride.
So many roads these brutes have walked on. Most times they tap along to my favorite country song. I recall Mama's home cooked meals, my old bird dog, 10-acre pond, riding reel. In that arena dust, it's always a family fuss. Get Grandpa mad and he starts to cuss. It's a place I love and this I know. There's no place like home, sweet home. There's no place like home, sweet home. Take me back, that's where I wanna go. There's no place like home, sweet home. Take me back, that's where I'm gonna go. Oh, sweet home. Oh, sweet home. We had barbecues and I gave my shoes. Those long summer nights and grandma's always right. Yeah, you know, always a hard working day. My first sixth string, we taught ourselves to play. In that arena dust, it's always a family fuss. Getting Grandpa mad and he starts to cuss. It's a place I love and this I know.